Evan Williams bottled in bond is $15 to $20, 100 proof, and federally verified. The bottle beside it is $55, wrapped in wax and story, and still loses when the labels come off. That is the whole American whiskey shelf. Law on one side, theater on the other. 7 bottled in bond bottles in this video make that impossible to ignore. Entry 1. Evan Williams bottled in bond. Typically found between $15 and $20 on most shelves. If you have never tasted this bottle, the price is going to make you skeptical. That is exactly the problem this video exists to solve. Evan Williams. Bottled in bond is a product of Heaven Hill Distilleries, which produces more bonded American whiskey than any other distiller in the country. That is not a claim. That is the official position of the distillery itself. And for $15 to $20, you are getting 100 proof bourbon that has met every federal requirement of the 1897 standard. In the glass, it is amber and clear. The nose opens with baking spice, a little dried fruit, and underneath that, something warm and slightly toasty that takes a minute to identify. It is cornbread. Honest, unpretentious cornbread with a faint dusting of cinnamon. The palate delivers exactly what the nose promises. Caramel, vanilla, a backbone of oak that arrives right on schedule and does not overstay its welcome. The finish is medium length and clean. There is nothing confusing about this whiskey. It is not trying to be something it is not. The bottle it consistently outperforms in blind comparisons is a well-known mid-shelf bourbon in the $40 to $50 range. Clean packaging. Shelf presence. Attractive label. You have probably seen it next to the register. In glass after glass, when the labels are removed, tasters reach for the thing that tastes like more. The $15 bottle has more going on at the 100 proof mark than the 40% ABV bottle at 4 times the price. Think about ordering at a restaurant where the house wine comes from a vineyard that has been doing one thing for 30 years, and the table next to you pays triple for something they recognize from a magazine. The recognition is not the wine. I want to plant something here before we move forward. The company behind Evan Williams is also behind something that costs more than twice as much and earns every cent of it. We will get there in Entry 2. Entry 2. Heaven Hill 7-year bottled in bond. Around $40. Here is the payoff. Same distillery, same federal oversight, same bonded standard. But Heaven Hill also releases a 7-year expression under the bonded designation, and the additional 3 years of aging in that federally supervised warehouse changes the conversation entirely. 7 years of contact with American oak in a Kentucky climate does things to a spirit that no amount of packaging can replicate. The seasons cycle. The wood expands and contracts. The whiskey moves in and out of the grain, picking up tannin and depositing water and alcohol at a controlled loss rate. The nose on the 7-year is denser, more layered. Dried cherry comes first, then dark caramel, then something that sits between toasted pecan and fresh leather. Aged whiskey. This is what aged whiskey actually smells like when the story on the label is true. On the palate, the spice sharpens. The fruit deepens into something almost dried and concentrated, like a fig rather than a fresh cherry. The oak is pronounced but not punishing. The finish stretches. You are still tasting it 45 seconds after the glass goes down, and what lingers is warm and dry and satisfying. The bottle this is being compared to is a craft labeled bourbon in the $55 to $65 range. Heritage story. Hand-applied label. Wax on the neck. The kind of bottle that photographs well at a dinner party. The production story on the back is vague in exactly the ways that the bottled-in bond designation is specific. No season disclosed. No single distillery confirmed. No proof justification offered beyond the minimum. It is the difference between a notarized document and a handshake agreement. Both might be fine. But when the handshake deal underdelivers in the glass, you have no framework for understanding why. Heaven Hill 7-year at $40 is the notarized document, and it beats the $60 handshake in every way that matters. Entry 3. Rittenhouse Rye bottled in bond. Around $25. The rye whiskey market has developed a convincing story about what premium rye is supposed to taste like, and, more importantly, what it is supposed to cost. Cocktail culture absorbed rye as an ingredient and immediately assigned price signals to quality. The bottle that shows up behind the bar at a notable craft cocktail program must be worth the $30 to $50 it costs. That logic has been handed to drinkers as received wisdom. Rittenhouse Rye bottled in bond has been quietly dismantling that logic for years. Around $25, 100 proof. Federal government oversight of every claim on the label. And in blind tastings documented across enthusiast communities and professional publications, it consistently outperforms rye whiskeys at double and triple its price. The reason is structural. Rye mash bills produce a naturally spicy, assertive spirit. At 100 proof, that character arrives unfiltered and unpadded. You taste the rye. Not the dilution. Not the neutralizing effect of pulling the proof down to 40% to smooth out the rougher edges. Pour a glass. The nose is sharp and immediate. Black pepper, dried mint, a little clove. The palate is spicy and structured, and the finish has a rye grain bite that stays specific and clean for a long time. This is a serious cocktail whiskey and a serious sipping whiskey at the same time. The rye that gets name-dropped at $50 price points often softens the spice to appeal to a broader audience. Rittenhouse does not soften anything. It is doing exactly what rye is supposed to do, and the $25 on the shelf reflects nothing about the quality of the whiskey. It reflects the fact that Rittenhouse has not hired a brand consultant. Entry 4. Old Granddad bottled in bond. Around $25 to $30. The proof math on this entry is the clearest argument in the video. Old Granddad bottled in bond is 100 proof bourbon with what is widely reported to be a high rye mash bill, meaning the secondary grain driving the flavor is rye rather than wheat. That combination at $25 to $30 puts it in direct competition with a category of polished mid-shelf bourbons that arrive at 40% ABV, minimum legal proof, colored and chill filtered to a consistent presentation, priced at $40 to $50, and described in their marketing copy as smooth. Smooth is the word that gets used when a brand has optimized a whiskey for inoffensiveness rather than character. There is a reason no distiller in 1897 was trying to make a smooth whiskey. Smooth means the interesting parts have been managed out of the liquid. Old Grandad is the opposite of smooth. It has edges. The nose has a pronounced rye spice right out of the gate, layered over orange peel and a little dusty grain that smells like an actual working distillery rather than a sanitized tasting room. The palate is assertive and specific. Baking spice, a hint of dried citrus, a dry wood finish that does not apologize for being present. This is a bourbon with a point of view. The foil in this comparison is sitting at $40 to $50, bottled at 40% ABV. That means for every 100 milliliters you pour, you are getting 40 milliliters of alcohol and 60 of water. With Old Grandad bottled in bond, you are getting 50 milliliters of alcohol per 100. More whiskey, more character, more of what the barrel gave at 2/3 the price. That is not a matter of taste. That is arithmetic. The 40% bottle is diluted to maximize the bottle count pulled from a given cask. Old Grandad is not diluted. The difference is in the pour. Entry 5. Early times bottled in bond, around $20 to $25. This one requires a small history lesson, and the history lesson is the point. Early Times has existed as a whiskey name in Kentucky for well over a century. It has changed hands. Production methods have shifted. What you need to know today is that the bottled in bond expression, produced under Brown-Forman, carries the federal guarantee. 1 distiller, 1 distillery, 1 season, 4 years minimum, 100 proof. The label means what it says. The bottle it is being compared to is one you have probably seen at gift shops near distillery tours in Kentucky. Heritage presentation. A story about founding families or early frontier bourbon traditions, priced in the $45 to $60 range, designed to look like a piece of history. The problem is that the historical narrative on the back label describes a legacy the current liquid doesn't share in any verifiable, production-specific way. The name is old. The claim is not the same as the history. This is the most common sleight of hand in American whiskey, exploiting the emotional weight of a heritage story to justify a price the whiskey cannot justify on its own terms. Early Times bottled in bond offers the opposite arrangement. The nose is lighter than the previous entries, a little grain forward, apple orchard, soft vanilla. The palate is mild by bonded standards but still specific. Caramel and light baking spice, a shorter finish than Rittenhouse or Old Grandad, but honest and clean. It is not the most complex bottle on this list, but every claim on the label is legally verifiable. $20 to $25 for a 100 proof whiskey with federal oversight beats $55 for a beautiful bottle with an untraceable story every single time. Before we get to the last 2 entries, a quick moment. If this video is changing how you think about what the label actually tells you versus what the bottle implies, hit subscribe. This channel exists to give you the information the marketing departments prefer you not have. And a question for the comments. Which of these 5 entries surprised you most? Was it the $15 Evan Williams outperforming a $40 bottle in a blind pour? Or is it the proof math on Old Grandad that is going to stick with you next time you reach for the 40% bottle? Tell me below, because the last 2 entries are where it gets genuinely interesting. Entry 6. 1792, bottled in bond. Under $50. 1792, bottled in bond sits at the top of the accessible, bonded price range. The name references the year Kentucky became a state. The distillery behind it is Barton, which is part of Sazerac, one of the larger spirits companies operating in the United States. I am not going to oversell the romance here. This is a product of a large industrial operation. But the bonded designation does something for this bottle that the Sazerac umbrella of premium releases cannot match. It makes every single production claim verifiable and legally accountable. In the glass, 1792 bottled in bond is more substantial than the bottles below it in price on this list. The nose opens with rich vanilla, a heavier caramel note, and a layer of toasted oak that feels more deliberate than the younger expressions. There is dried fruit underneath, dark and concentrated. The palate is dense and structured, with a warming spice that builds across the mid-palate without spiking into heat. The finish is long and dry, and carries a faint tobacco note that emerges in the last moments of the fade. This is a bourbon that rewards patience. Let it breathe in the glass for 5 minutes before the first sip. Now compare it to a premium release sitting adjacent on the shelf. Decorated bottle. A small batch designation on the label, a price around $90 to $110. The premium release has no disclosed age, no confirmed single distillery sourcing, no government-supervised warehouse requirement. The phrase small batch has no legal definition under TTB regulations. It means nothing with the force of law. It can mean 2 barrels. It can mean 200. There is no accountability in the term. You are paying $90 to $110 for a phrase with no legal meaning. You are paying under $50 for a designation with 127 years of federal law behind it. A smaller bottle format at a slightly lower price can obscure the per-ounce cost. A trick that works because most drinkers do not do. The arithmetic at the shelf. Do the arithmetic. Take the price, divide by the volume, and compare. 1792, bottled in bond holds up. The premium small batch does not. Entry 7. An independent craft distillery bottled in bond expression, generally ranging from $50 to $80 or above, depending on the producer and region. This is the entry I have been building toward. And it comes back to the callback I planted at the beginning. The Bottled in Bond Act of 1897 was not written to protect large industrial whiskey producers. It was written because of them, and against the practices they were enabling. The fraudulent rectifiers of the 1880s and 90s were operating at scale. The adulterated product was industrial. The law was designed specifically to create a protected category for the small, skilled, single-season producer whose work could be verified and trusted. The single distiller, working a single season, making a specific whiskey, answering to a federal agent in a bonded warehouse. That is the origin of the standard. When an independent craft distillery today puts the bottled-in bond designation on a release, they are doing exactly the thing the law was written to protect. Kings County Distillery in Brooklyn, to use one documented example, has described the bonded standard as the hardest and most constrained thing to make. That description is accurate. At a small operation, meeting the bonded requirements means committing an entire production capacity for an entire distilling season to a single whiskey that cannot be released for at least 4 years. There is no blending flexibility, no correction mechanism, no ability to supplement an underperforming cask with something from a different run. The whiskey either delivers on its own or it does not. The craft bonded bottle in this price range, typically between $50 and $80 depending on producer and region, is being compared here to a formerly independent brand now operating under a large spirits conglomerate. The original production team has moved on in many documented cases. Pricing has climbed steadily since acquisition. Enthusiast communities have noted and documented quality shifts in reviews following changes in ownership and production oversight. Though batch variation exists and individual experiences differ. The point is not that every acquired brand is ruined. The point is that you no longer have a legal framework telling you what is in the bottle. The acquisition removed that transparency. The bonded craft bottle reinstates it. In the glass, a well-executed craft bonded whiskey is unlike anything else on this list. The character is specific to the producer. Some lean into high rye structure. Some produce wheated mash bills. Some work with heritage grains that the large distilleries have not used in decades. The nose tends to be more angular, more raw grain forward, occasionally more surprising than a large distillery expression of comparable age. The palate carries the character of exactly what went into the barrel and exactly what came out, because no blending, no averaging, and no supplementation is permitted under the standard. The finish tells you something about the distiller, their choices, their season, their warehouse, their skill. This is the bottle that makes the luxury conglomerate release look most hollow. not because the craft bottle is always better in every pour. Sometimes the polished professional operation at scale produces more consistent liquid. But the conglomerate release at $80 to $110 is asking you to trust a marketing department. The craft bonded bottle at $50 to $80 is asking you to trust a federal standard and a distiller accountable to it. Those are different requests. And 127 years of American whiskey history is fairly clear about which one deserves more trust. Here is where this lands. Bottled in bond is not a flavor guarantee. Pappy Van Winkle believed 100 proof was the ideal concentration for whiskey, and the standard locks in that proof, but it cannot lock in talent. An unskilled distiller with excellent compliance produces a compliant bottle, not necessarily a great one. The designation tells you the provenance is real, the age is real, the proof is real, and the oversight was real. It does not tell you the distiller has a gift for grain and wood and time. But here is what it does tell you. Every other bottle on the shelf above $30 is asking you to rely on the integrity of a marketing strategy. The heritage story, the small batch claim, the hand-applied label, the numbered bottle, the famous name that has changed ownership twice in a decade. None of those things are covered by the 1897 standard. The bonded designation is. And in a market where a velvet bag costs $1.20 and a compelling story costs nothing at all, a federal law that has not changed since before most of the great distilleries on your shelf were built, is still one of the strongest pieces of evidence you have that the whiskey in the bottle is what the label says it is. Next time you are standing in front of a shelf, look for the words "bottled in bond." Then look at the price of the bottle next to it with the wax seal and the numbered label. Then decide which one is selling you something and which one is telling you something.